the Director of El Barrio and Workforce for the Centers for Families and Children. With me today is Celinette Mojica. She is our Manager of Curriculum Development, and Lisa Drake, who is our career coach in charge of our pharmacy technician track. The mission of the centers is to improve the lives of those we serve through integrated behavioral health, primary care, early learning, and workforce services. So today we're going to talk about how we help a person who comes to us who's interested in employment and the many tracks or several tracks that they might take to reach their end goal. And we're going to highlight our pharmacy technician track. The pharmacy technician track is a partnership with CVS. It is a single track that includes instruction, hands-on experience to become a pharmacy technician trainee, and test preparation to become a nationally certified pharmacy technician or a CPHT. Our program began in 2017, and in 2017, all you needed was a high school diploma or a GED and a clean background to go into this field of study. At that time, there were not many employers who were requiring a national certification in order to become employed. Since 2017, there have been two regulatory changes that have impacted both the training for the national certification and employment. In 2019, there was regulations that formalized the actual classroom time required before you can take the exam. So now you have to have 400 hours of a mix of classroom time and hands-on time before you can sit for the exam. In addition to that, many employers today are now either requiring the national certification prior to employment or shortly after you get employed. So what that did for our program is in 2017, it was a 4-week program with training and participation from CVS. It was a pipeline directly into a CVS pharmacy. Today, we still have that first 4 weeks of training. We are still a pipeline for CVS. However, once somebody becomes employed with CVS, they then now continue to work with us and train with us up until a year or more, depending on how much time it takes them to actually sit for the exam and earn their national certification. So some of the program highlights are we are now virtual, and the platform that we use is Talent LMS. There is some self-paced programming, and there's technical assistance to help with the PTCE, which is the Pharmacy Technician Certification Exam. So we will help you study for that. We have mentors and tutors who are CPHT instructors and pharmacy residents who help tutor our clients to that exam. We have practice exams, and we do cover the exam fees and the State of Ohio Board of Pharmacy licensure fees. In addition to that, we are a pipeline into CVS. There's a lot of advancement opportunities with CVS, and we also work with other local pharmacies. So this is a great picture of the CVS Workforce Innovation Technology Center. It is co-located in our program at 4500 Euclid Avenue. It's a mini store, as you can see. Our clients have the opportunity to simulate what it's like to be behind a real CVS pharmacy desk. They practice the cash registers, they practice waiting on clients, and they practice actually moving around the pharmacy and the rules in which the pharmacy at CVS specifically works. If you can see to the left, there's not a whole lot of it, but there's an actual retail store as well. And our clients have the opportunity from our customer service program to actually train as a cashier and how to work in the store, how to face, and other things that CVS requires once you're an employee. So this is just an overview of what maybe the perfect track might look like, how we're designed. So if somebody's interested in our program, they do go to an information session first. We have those every Friday. When you come to the information session, if you're interested in pharmacy, you will start by taking a test. That's the intake assessment. If you score below 70% on your math on that test, you will be assigned Aztec, which is an online GED preparation software. Then you can work on improving that score so you can get into the pharmacy track. You will enter general job readiness, where we will work on all of those core job readiness things that you need: resumes, mock interviews, showing up on time. And then from there, you're going to move into what we call phase 1. So as I noted earlier, there's the 4-week piece, and then once you're employed, working toward the national certification. We call phase 1 that first 4 weeks, and phase 2 the study time towards your national certification. While you're in phase 1, you'll be registered with the state of Ohio and earn your Board of Pharmacy licensure. And while you're in the program, you'll be exposed to employers, CVS, and others who are hiring and training in our classrooms. Once you complete this phase and you actually get hired by a pharmacy, for us ideally CVS, then you will be a recipient of our retention services. Retention is from 6 months up to a year. And then while you're employed, we will also start to work with you around your work schedule to help you study for that national exam. And as you can see, case management starts from day 1 throughout the entire program. This entire process now with that national exam can take up to a year or more. It really depends on the amount of time that the person has to study and their aptitude for the information that's going to be on the test. So we're going to talk about 3 different possible students who might come to us. The first one is a person who comes to us without a high school diploma or GED. And this person would be set up or referred to Seeds of Literacy, which is an adult literacy program that we partner with. They would be accepted into our general job readiness program. And while they're working toward their GED, they might also get employed with another one of our partners. And in this case, we'll say they're employed with Aramark. Now, our second student comes to us with a foreign diploma. If you have a foreign diploma, you must pass the TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language. And this is a state regulatory requirement. And while you are studying for that test, we might put you in the customer service training program. CVS, again, is a very strong partner in our customer service program. So this person would be learning CVS customer service, as well as practicing their English and studying for that TOEFL test. And our third student comes to us with low math scores. In this case, that person would be accepted into general job readiness, and they would continue to work on their math score until they can improve it to better than 70%. And this is the test that Albario does, so that they can prove that they can handle the math that will be in the pharmacy class and on the ultimate exam for your national certification.
Hey, Melissa.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have Brandon Lips available. So
Okay.
if you mind, I'm going to disrupt your presentation for just a second. Well,
Absolutely.
probably for more like 5 to 10 minutes.
Fine, let me stop sharing.
Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I'm actually out in West Virginia in the middle of nowhere with my family, but I appreciate y'all making time for me to visit today. I wanted to make sure that y'all know how important what you do is to the mission that we have at FNF. We, excuse me, being out of my breath, we're actually, so, our mission at FNF is to make sure that everybody has access to food. We do that across 15 different feeding programs every day. We have a wonderful team of folks who work very hard to wake up every day and fulfill that mission and make sure that everybody has access to food and to fulfill their immediate needs. But if we don't do more, we're not helping those families move forward. We're only helping them with their immediate needs. And so the things that you do each and every day are the types of things that help families move forward. That's what we want to be about at FNF, is making sure that happens. So I just wanted to take the time, even in the midst of being out with my family, to join you today to say thank you for what you do for the families that we serve, to help them move forward. And even as I was listening early on in this call, for those of you who have figured out how to go from what you do every day to moving to a virtual environment, because what we know is so many families, even now, in the midst of the struggles that we all have, are still desiring to move forward, to move towards those jobs, to make sure that as the economy opens up wherever they are, that they have more opportunity for their family moving forward. And that's what you do each and every day. I want to thank Ray and Trish and their wonderful team at the Midwest Regional Office for hosting this and for bringing you all together. I want to thank each and every one of you on the phone, whether you're already helping families move forward every day or you're learning more about how you can help do that. I want to thank you for your commitment to that. And for all that you do to help make that happen. The Employment Training Program is a wonderful opportunity that we have where Congress has provided unlimited drawdown matching funds for us to help people move forward. And I think that it's a great injustice if we only hand out food to them and don't say, how can we help their family move forward? That's what this program is about. It's what Ray and his team focus on each and every day. And it is a part of the mission at FNS to say, not only how can we make sure that people have immediate access to food, but how can we help them move to a better place in their life for them and their family and for the communities that they live in as we move forward. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. I appreciate you taking time to do that. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but that's part of the environment we're living in now, even if you're not in the mountains of West Virginia. But thanks, Ray, for making this work. Thanks for all y'all are doing, and please keep being dedicated to helping families move to a better place.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to pass it back.
So just to pick up where we left off, the first person in our example, the person without a high school or diploma or GED, at this point may not continue down the path to pharmacy tech. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't see this person again. Just at this point, they would be moving down a different employment road for their immediate need of employment. So the next slide, now we have our foreign diploma student. They complete our customer service program, they pass the TOEFL, and they enroll in our pharmacy technician phase 1 program. Our person with our low math scores also completes the job readiness. They improve their score, and then they also enroll in our pharmacy tech program. Both of these examples do complete phase 1. So in the next slide, this is where the next stage is a virtual job tryout with CVS, and everybody has the opportunity to work for CVS who goes through this program. And the CVS hiring managers actually do events specifically with our students. The first thing that the students have to do is the virtual job tryout called the VJT. In our first example, our person with a foreign diploma passes the retail section and the pharmacy tech section of the VJT, and they move right into a pharmacy tech trainee position with CVS. Our low math score example, this person takes the VJT as well, but maybe they pass just the retail section and they fail the pharmacy section. That does not mean that their path is over, because CVS will still hire them as a retail sales associate and then cross-train them as a pharmacy tech. And this is where our person who maybe now has their high school diploma and GED and maybe has been working for a little while can re-enter the pipeline. So this person has worked with us and we are aware of them. We can pick up the phone, call CVS. They will have to go online, do the application, and pass the virtual job tryout. And then at that point, we can advocate for them with a store manager to be hired into a CVS in retail, while they too can begin to cross-train as a pharmacy technician. So even though they didn't go through our Pharm Tech program, they can move into CVS in a retail sales position, and then we can pick up the ball again here. So now once these three are now working with CVS, they are either in the pharmacy or cross-training as a cashier, we will then begin to work with them toward their national certification. And that is when they'll start working with us around their schedule, and we'll help them study for that national certification. That whole process can take up to a year. It does depend on the person who is trying to get their national certification, the amount of time they can dedicate to studying around their employment, and when they can take the test. And so just to talk a little bit about our program impact, we have had, since it became required in most cases to get a national certification to really advance, we've had 6 people successfully earn their CPHT. We've had, since 2017, when the pharmacy track began, we've had 79 pharmacy hires. Remember, at one point, you did not need your national certification to get into the pharmacy. And then we had 123 hires with CVS just in their retail section. So as you can see, they've been a very strong hiring partner for us. If you are going to go into the pharmacy just without the national certification and an entry level, you're probably looking, at least in our area here in Cuyahoga County, around $11 to $11.50 an hour. If you get into a mail order pharmacy, then you will earn somewhere between $13 and $15 to enter. And then once you do earn your national certification, you can move into a hospital setting where you'll make $18 or better, or you can continue to promote within either the retail pharmacy realm or with a mail order company and increase that wage. So your national certification does help you to increase your wage, and it is national, so you can take it anywhere. If you're moving, you can take it with you. And then finally, I'll close there with our contact information in case anybody has questions after the fact, or they're interested in reaching out to us to talk about our programs or anything that you have that we can assist with. We would be absolutely happy to answer and work with you. With that, I will stop sharing. And I'm going to pass this on to Jake. Thank you again, everybody, for your time and listening to our program. Okay, Jake.
Hello, everyone. I'm really hopeful that this all works the way that it's supposed to, and I can screen share properly.
Hey, everyone. I am Jennifer DeMontlin, Program Officer for YWCA Southeast Wisconsin. And with me today is my colleague, Jake, who is our Adult Education Director. Jake and I have a little bit of a comedy routine we do, and we're going to spare you today. You got a little taste of it there. So we work for YWCA Southeast Wisconsin, and we're here today to talk to you about our 509 High School Equivalency Diploma Program. I wish I had more than the 10 minutes that Ray gave us here to tell you about all the amazing work of the YWCA. But in general, we do racial justice work and economic empowerment work. And I encourage you to visit us online at ywcasew.org. Go ahead, Jake. So our high school equivalency diploma came about because of a big change. Many of you on this call today are probably aware of how the GED test changed substantially in 2014. It went from being a paper and pencil examination to being delivered online at the same time that the content of that test became exceptionally more difficult. So immediately upon seeing this change in the test for us at the YWCA, this was a justice issue. This was a credential that we knew that the folks that we serve needed, and now it was made more difficult for them to achieve it. We needed to do something about it and do something quickly. So to give you sort of a sense of the scale of how this impacted us, we have our own Pearson VUE testing center so that people can test right with us for their GED. Prior to 2014, when the test changed, we were seeing 400 GED graduates a year out of our program that had 3 staff people. We had determined a very efficient program model. We were able to help a lot of people. It was frankly a thing of beauty. And then the test changed. And in 2014, we saw, wait for it, 9 graduates. Now, in fairness, we had cleared out a lot of, we had pushed people to finish up under the old test. We knew the change was coming. But the bottom line is, in serving hundreds of people, 9 of them were able to get through this, this new test. So as we talked about the norming of the test with the powers that be and did our best to advocate for changes to this test, we also reviewed our own program effectiveness, reviewed the data through GED analytics, and found that, not surprisingly, this new examination disproportionately affected people of color. We had to explore other options and immediately worked with our state of Wisconsin's Department of Public Instruction to make use of the state code, which is where that 509 comes from. That's the state code that allows us to create a high school level curriculum for adult learners. So we went to develop a competency-based model. Jake, take it away.
So for 10 years before I started working for the YWCA, I ran another large nonprofit program that had a high school equivalency diploma program in Milwaukee. And I knew the test was going to be bad, but I didn't believe it could be as staggeringly bad as what it ended up being. And I knew that I wanted to develop a new program when I came to the YWCA, but I didn't want it to be mediocre. I kind of wanted it to be the best that it could be. So I began looking at different ways that I could approach this and what knowledge I could pull in from different areas. So I looked into the new GED test and I saw what the standards were there, and they were pretty closely aligned with the Common Core state standards. So I wanted to make sure that it had all the rigor of a normal high school diploma. So I looked into the Wisconsin DPI standards. But as an adult educator, we need to make sure that we're contextualizing the materials so then that way it makes sense to the students. And if you put real life application in it, they're going to be more engaged. So one thing we always thought was we wanted this to work for everybody involved. So we designed the structure, which I'll show you a little bit later, to support the technical college people, or teachers that come in from the Wisconsin Technical College system. And more than anything, we wanted to begin to make a base plate, not a one size fits most model, but I wanted to have the ability for our students to show a base knowledge in which they could then branch off of. We contacted the Department of Workforce Development, and they suggested that we used ACT's Work Keys. And ACT's Work Keys is a nationally recognized evidence-based credential, and it helps individuals show how they can apply the the logic and the educational skills that are obtained in our program and how it would relate to the workforce. Because of utilizing this, we can look at different career options, and we kind of think of it as like a jumping off point. Jen, you got anything to add to this part?
Yeah, it was really important for us, initially when we designed this, there's a lot of talk about pathways and about attaching particular pathways to high school equivalency diploma programs. And we made a very deliberate decision not to do that, and to make sure that when we integrated the workforce preparation work through Work Keys and then the subsequent National Career Readiness certification into our program, that what we were giving our learners was the chance to explore their interest, their aptitudes, and what was out there for them. What really was their passion? How did they want to spend the rest of their working life? And give our learners a chance to explore those passions individually while obtaining their credential, such that when they were done with us, we were then supporting them and getting set up for whatever was next for them. So we talked about the fact that we talked about the fact that our program is approved by the state's superintendent for the Department of Public Instruction. Our competency-based program allows students to show high school level knowledge through a variety of methods. So when you think about the GED, that is a testing-based credential, right? You answer questions on a test and you either pass or you don't. In our HSCD model, it's a combination, which makes it actually substantially similar to traditional high school experience. Attendance, quizzes, exams, classes, class participation, all of that goes into this experience. So that was approved for us by the Department of Public Instruction and is an ongoing annual approval by DPI.
Jen, if I could
jump in.
If I can jump in there a little bit. I liken it to, I like to cook. And if I were to get a French cookbook and you asked me to read the recipes and be able to cook, it might not necessarily reflect my actual skill set. We can ask the questions in different ways during the program that helps them explain their knowledge. I one time got a C- on a test because I couldn't necessarily explain the stuff in writing. I went into my teacher's office hours and I ended up getting a B+ on it because he helped me guide my conversation, which I didn't do well. So it's literally asking them, how well do you cook? Not can you cook reading this French cookbook?
Yeah, great point. Thank you. So our program is student-centered. And what that means is we understand that for the folks we serve, life often gets in the way. We wanted to create a program that was built on that recognition. I always say that if I was dealing with a quarter of what most of our students are dealing with, I'd have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, and I'm a motivated person.
She has the most energy of anybody I know.
I'm actually being really calm for you all right now. You're welcome. So this program is student-centered, and it includes multiple entry and exit points to allow people to join at different times. It furthers both those academic skills, but also with a heavy focus on those interpersonal and communication skills needed in everyday life. I always say that part of our responsibility is to impart the rules of the game. All of us are taught different rules in life depending on our experiences, And certain expectations are pretty uniform across employment models, right? And so it's our job to impart that information. The program aligns the skill set of our graduates to the skills needed through ACT's NCRC examination. That's the National Career Readiness Certification Examination. Everything we're doing with our students is contextualized so that, you know, math is going to be, let's figure out how much paint we would need to paint this room. Everything is contextualized for real life. And in doing that, students engage with the material and they realize actually math is obviously the biggest area of concern for most of our students, as it is for most people. But through this contextualized instruction model, people realize I've been doing math all along. The idea of math scares me, but in practical application, I have a lot more skill in this area than I ever would have known. I just didn't recognize it as that skill. So our program is a cohort model. Students, for the most part, start together and finish together. The flexibility in our model allows people to join join a different cohort as needed to promote their own learning. But our cohort model really is centered around the idea that half of our program really is very highly academic focused, but the other half of this program is around peer support, relationship development, getting the resources and the help to resolve all of those things that do get in the way throughout your 20-week experience with us.
Jen almost went crazy when I said I wanted to include this slide in there. She's like, this is the opposite of everything.
You're breaking every rule of slides. And he goes, that's the point.
I didn't know that we were talking enough about this stuff, right? So ultimately what I want to show, and since I'm screen sharing, I can actually point to it. Each one of the topics that are covered in the GED and traditional high schools is outlined in this model. We include a civics test because that's part of the Wisconsin state standards. We talk about employability skills, and there's an additional course for that, and then there's an additional contextualized course for health. What I wanted to say during this slide is that after we did it the first couple of years, we have a very strict attendance policy that sometimes gets people removed from the program because they can't attend work every day. Well, we needed to look at different options that actually service the clients that we had. And what we found out was that we could get the GED test to work for different parts of this completion. So either the student can pass the language arts examination for GED, or they can take our 72-hour course. The same thing with the math and science. So everything you see here has a test out option, or they can come and attend a course, and they must pass each course with an 80%. Every one of the students that comes into our program has to pass every one of the competencies, and there's hundreds of them, at an 80% or higher. So they're going to be a B student before they leave. And the flexibility here is we bundle the certain subject areas together. So math and science are bundled together, and language arts and social studies are bundled in an 8-week section. And I say that to say that if life happens, if things come up, and I got pop-ups everywhere right now, if things come up during the time, they don't need to wait a whole semester to come back in. They can come back in during the next section or the next rolling enrollment. So we can imagine that in each site we have 3 cohorts going, one that's going to come into the section, one that's in the math and science, and one that's in the reading and social studies. Everyone must take the National Career Readiness examination for us, but they don't need to pass that in order to pass the course. And I know that seems weird, but we are doing this because a standardized test didn't reflect well on the students that we were servicing, although the knowledge base that they demonstrate during the program did. So putting another anchor at the end of it, if they didn't pass the National Career Readiness test, which is a standardized test normed in its own way, we didn't want to put that limitation there, but everyone had to attempt it. Also, the design of the program allows for partnerships with technical colleges and allows for maximum gains on their end. So then that way they can get the amount of hours they need, but plus show NRS level gains, which ultimately leads to better funding for our partners.
So really, when we talk about our program, we operate a GED program, we operate an HSCD program, and we provide for a hybrid model that combines the two. Our goal is the most efficient path to a high school credential for each individual learner. So why it works. You know, we've got a couple of our partners up here on the screen who talk about why our program works. And really what it is these combination of academic skills with life and workforce skills. The whole time, the messaging throughout the program is, what is next? Not the idea that completing this diploma is the end of an educational journey, but it's the start of that. Whether that means moving on to our technical college partners with whom our students are already familiar in day-to-day life through our partnership, whether that means moving on to employment, but employment in the example of a recent graduate. She began the program with us at a job that was paying her $8.25 an hour. When she completed her high school equivalency diploma with us, and through a relationship we had with a local employer, she immediately rolled into a job paying $17.10. Now, that job is not her ultimate goal. What that job will allow her to do is stabilize her family and also take her online courses at the technical college that are going to get her to her goal of being a nurse. She'll accomplish that. We know that.
In the end, since our approval in the fall of 2016, we've had 453 graduates, and that's 82% of the people that start on day one complete the program, which is a fairly high number. But what I'm the most proud of is 87% of the people that complete our program also pass the National Career Readiness Test. This is a secondary credential that's recognized by people throughout the country that shows that they can apply the knowledge that they gained in our program to the skill sets needed in many different jobs. We've had a multitude of people that have actually scored above the minimum standard and got into the silver and gold, and we've actually had one platinum, which I felt weird about because I only qualified for the gold.
Jake, you gotta let it go, man. You gotta let it go.
Gotta be better. I gotta be better. At this point, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I am going to pass this to Amanda, and I've officially completed my tasks. Woo!
Great. Thanks
Great.
so much, Jake. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ray and Brandon, for inviting me to be part of today's conversation. And thank you to my colleagues who've just walked us through their really exciting on-the-ground program models and presentations. I want to take a step back for a second. I know that we have almost 400 folks on the call today. Some of you are state officials who run SNAP employment and training programs. Some of you are with state labor agencies or workforce boards. Some of you are in adult education. Some of you work at community-based nonprofits or school districts or community colleges. Whatever angle you're approaching these issues from, I want to encourage you to think about SNAP employment and training recipients as people who will succeed better if you partner. So partnering might mean that you as a community-based nonprofit are reaching out to your partners in state government. It might mean that you as a state government agency are reaching out to your partners at community-based organizations. There's a lot of different ways that it can look. But as I walk through this short handful of slides that I have here for you, I just hope that you keep in mind from whichever type of organization you're housed in, if the big challenge that we're all trying to solve is how do we help low-income people get access to high-quality education and training so they can get good jobs and support their families, we're all working towards that from different angles. And we're more effective and more powerful when we complement each other's skills. So what does that mean in practicality, right? That was a very general statement that I just made. So if your goal is to connect SNAP participants with better jobs, you should absolutely be thinking about adult education programs as a key ally. For those of you who are on this webinar who are not yourselves adult education providers, I want to emphasize if you've worked with one adult education program, you've worked with one adult education program. Adult education programs are really heterogeneous. They look really different. They might be a small church basement program run by a community organization. They might be a large public charter school that supports adult high school equivalency. So it can look incredibly different depending on what part of the country you're in, how it's funded, and a number of other factors. But one thing that is true is that many adult education programs in this country are funded through the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA. Title II of WIOA provides about $700 million in funding nationally for adult education programs, and that includes adult basic education, or what some people call pre-GED programs, adult secondary education, high school equivalency, or what some people still call GED programs, and adult English language programs, among others. States put in about $3 for every $1 the feds put in, but that money is really uneven. In some states, it's a 1-to-1 match. In some states, it's less than that. In some states, it's more than that. So if folks want to sort of follow up on the specifics of your state after this call, you'll have my contact information, and I warmly invite you to do that. Some states house their adult education programs in their labor agencies. Some of them house it in their education agency. Some states mostly run it through their community colleges. Some states run it through K-12 school districts that also offer adult education programs. Some states run it through community-based nonprofits, or a hybrid of all of the above. So it's a really diverse picture depending on where you are in the country. But one of the most important things to know, particularly if you're coming at this from the SNAP side of the fence, is there are proven models in adult education. We've just heard about 2 of them that can help people get on-ramps to good jobs, so that they're not just getting quickly placed into the first available not very good job that they might be able to hold on to for a short period of time, and then they won't really be able to build traction and be able to support their families. Program models like integrated education and training, which basically allow people to build their basic skills in reading or math or digital literacy or English at the same time as they're building technical skills that are needed for a particular occupation or industry, like pharmacy tech, as we heard, or like accounting or bookkeeping, like nursing, like welding, whatever it might be. IET is an accelerated model, right? It means that you don't have to spend a lot of time first completing your basic skills education and then later go on to your job-specific training. It allows you to do both at once, usually through a dual instructor model. So if you're coming at this from a SNAP employment and training model, this may or may not already be a familiar model to you. In some parts of the country, SNAP ENT is already paying for community partnerships that provide really effective IET models. Washington State is kind of the granddaddy of all of them with their iBest model, integrated basic education and skills training, but there are excellent IET models in many parts of the country. If you want to dig deeper into sort of knowing what the model looks like and who's doing it well, I put a couple of reports on screen here that include program examples and sort of case studies from different parts of the country. One is from my organization on the left here, another from World Education's National College Transition Network. The important thing to know is that adult education can be a good pathway into middle skill jobs, jobs that require more than a high school diploma, but not a 4-year degree. But that doesn't happen accidentally. It has to be intentional. And usually there's not enough money in a program that's funded by WIOA Title II to do it on their own, which is why partnerships with SNAP employment and training can be so powerful. Now, if you're on today's webinar and you're already an adult ed provider and you know this piece like the back of your hand, what you may not know is about SNAP employment and training. And the 2 most important things I'd like to mention about SNAP ENT from a provider perspective are, first of all, that it's a reimbursement model, right? And so what that means is your organization has to have the cash flow to be able to put out money and then wait to be reimbursed. So that's an important consideration. The other piece of the puzzle is that SNAP ENT can cover additional expenses beyond what WIOA Title II funding or traditional adult ed funding can cover, including, for example, depending on the specifics of the program, things like childcare or transportation necessary for somebody to participate in training, materials, work boots, things like that. So the specifics may vary, and you should talk to the SNAP ENT contact person in your state if you want to dig deeper into this. But as an adult education provider, that's a couple of really important big picture things you need to know about potentially partnering with this system. What do we know about SNAP participants? We know that a lot of them have a high school diploma level of education or less. In other words, they could benefit from adult education. We also know that they may have tried different efforts at education in the past and gotten frustrated because the timing didn't work for them, because the schedule didn't work for them, because the program design didn't work for them, because it felt like it was too slow to get them to their career goals, whatever it might be. So when you think about SNAP ENT partnerships, I think the most important thing to think about is how can we reach the enormous population of folks who could benefit from these programs and yet are either unaware of them or have been frustrated in the past and have sort of given up on them. We know that there's a significant population of folks and we do want to be reaching those. I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize two last things before I wrap it up and we open up for questions. The first is digital literacy. This has always been important, but the pandemic has really shown a spotlight on it. California has a really innovative project they're doing right now with mobile learning for their CalFresh participants, which is their state branded name for SNAP employment and training. But really, regardless of who you are and where you are, your adult learners are probably using either their smartphones or a tablet or maybe a laptop or desktop computer to access adult education classes during this time of a pandemic. And yet they may lack equipment, they may lack home broadband, and there's all kinds of other barriers. You want to dig deeper into those issues, we have not only this new report on digital literacy, but a couple of other reports that focus in particular on racial equity and on English language learning and digital literacy. So if that's something that's of interest to you as you're thinking about SNAP ENT and response to the pandemic, I encourage you to check that out. So my last slide here is just going back to my original theme. You should be thinking about partnerships. Whatever kind of organization you sit in, whatever role you may have in state or local government, partnerships are what can help you serve that enormous swath of the American public that may be using SNAP benefits right now, but has not fully utilized the SNAP employment and training possibilities that are open to them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and hand control back over to Ray. And I believe we have time for some questions before we wrap up here. And I know that we'll be answering questions in writing for the pieces of the puzzle that we aren't able to get to during the conversation part, right? So thank you all so much for inviting me to join, and I will pass it back over to Ray in just a moment.
Thank you. And while you pass the baton to me, I wanted to thank everybody for attending. We have over 350 that participated in this call. As I mentioned several times in the chat box, we will be sending out the PowerPoints, as well as if we need written questions, but we do have some time to answer them. And I may share some content here. I wanted to point out that the SNAP employment and training is a wonderful funding stream. It is something that you can do a lot with it. You can do client supports. It can pay for tuition. It covers a lot of ground. It's what's necessary and reasonable to complete a training program to help a client get through this. But there are some tricky things with adult education, and I want to point that out. The large number of people on the call indicates to me that there's interest in people becoming part of SNAP employment and training, being service providers and getting reimbursed for it. As we've pointed out, it's only 50% reimbursement. We cover a lot of ground, but we only cover half of it. We also cannot supplant public money. And a lot of adult education programs are actually entitlement programs. That is, the state guarantees that anybody who wants this service can get it, and often performed through community colleges or public school districts, which are public and tax funded. And if this is offered free, we cannot supplant that. That means that if you're an agency and you want to get support for SNAP employment and training, serving our clients, you probably cannot get reimbursed for a public education program. However, there are things like supports such as transportation, childcare, and if there's a specific job training component that is not offered to the general public, if it's not offered to people walking in on the streets to everybody, then yes, that actually could be funded by SNAP EMT. How would you know this? You've got to talk to your state agency. SNAP Employment and Training is a federal funding stream that goes to the states, and the state agencies that administer it are the ones who make the decisions on who the providers are going to be, what services are going to be offered. So it's very important to talk to your state, to the state representatives, or not state representatives, but to the state officials who administer the program. And this would be Department of Human Services or Department of Health and Human Services. It's whatever agency handles SNAP also handles SNAP Employment and Training. However, some states are county administered. In that case, you need to be talking to people at the county level in order to access SNAP Employment and Training. I think it's a really great funding stream, and adult education is a critical part of it. And if you're interested, you should pursue this by contacting the appropriate people in your state. If this proves to be complicated or difficult, please contact me. Right now, I'm displaying contact information for everybody here, all of our presenters. I will continue to gather questions, and in the meantime, I'm going to try to put them up here and see if you guys can answer them. So hang on for a second. This is a question that came up during the discussion presentation on the pharmacy tech program and came up again later. And the question is the same. Are you able to get is there any work being done with justice-involved populations? So this is a toss-up for our presenters. Are you working with people with criminal backgrounds? Are you serving the justice-involved population?
This is the centers, and we do work with people who come from that particular population. Unfortunately, they would not probably qualify for the pharmacy technician training just because of requirements to work in a pharmacy. However, we would direct them to one of our other trainings or work with them in our general job readiness to help them find employment, and of course, case manage anything that we can do around their background as well.
Okay. Do you or have you considered partnering with adult education programs to support the math as tech or getting their GED? And Melissa wrote back in the chat, we partner with Seeds of Literacy. So I'm throwing this up. Who are your partners? Who are you partnering with? Not just for adult education, but also for skills training, for job placement, and do you work with employers? Who are your partners?
So I guess I'll have to.
I didn't know if you're throwing that to Melissa.
I don't know either.
Okay, well, so for YWCA Southeast Wisconsin, we have many partners. We are fortunate in that we are third-party funded, and we work with both Equus, formerly ResCare, and Maximus in that capacity. So they're excellent partners for us because, Ray, much to your point, you know, in addition to being able to access the funding for some pieces of program operation, we also are able to then access for our participants that connection, facilitate that connection. In our state, the program is called FSET. So, but we also have partnerships with our technical college system, with our individual technical colleges. We get referrals from over 30 nonprofit organizations. We are partnered all the way. We now have new partnerships for digital bridging to get our students access to computers so that they're able to begin with us. So yes, this is a heavily, heavily partnered program, including county and city representation as well. And that partnership management piece is critical to the operation of the program, but is also something that takes a significant amount of time.
One thing that I'd like to point out real quick is that if you look up What Works City Initiative, we partnered with the city of Racine to receive different layers of resources. But the adult education program that we run was featured by the Bill and Melinda Gates Bloomberg Philanthropy and the Balmer Group as a great practice in adult education. So the What Works City Initiative, and look up the city of Racine, that highlights a bunch of our partners in one spot.
We're very similar. We have many partners, employers and training partners as well.
Okay, we are just about out of town. I just wanted to see if there's anything coming. Lisa, did you want to answer a question? No. Okay. I will be sending
Just
stuff.
one about the, sorry, just the one about the TOEFL. That's a requirement by the Ohio Board of Pharmacy if a client does not have a high school diploma from the United States.
If they do not have a high school diploma from the United States, then what is the requirement?
To pass, take and pass the TOEFL.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then quickly about the question regarding the HiSET and task in the state of Wisconsin, GED is what we are working with at this time. So good question. And then to TABE, the Test of Adult Basic Education, that of course is an assessment to help guide where somebody is in terms of their academic development and determine a path, but it isn't a credential. It's an assessment.
The one about ESL as well, our program is approved by the state DPI for both English and Spanish usage. And I know that's not quite ESL, but it is offered in both English and Spanish.
All right. Everybody, thank you very much. We're gonna close up here. Remediation in context is a wonderful thing. I have a lot of experience with bridge programs. I'm quite fond of it. But doing research to pull together this little webinar, I met a lot of people, some people I already knew, but found out a lot more about their work and how important it is. And so there are colleagues in several other states I would have put on the panel, but we have limited time. I'm thinking we probably need to do another session getting into some more of the details on using adult education, not only as preparation and motivation, but also the success that people enjoy completing an adult education program seems to feed their success in later programs. Thank everybody for joining us, and we will have a webinar next month. It will be on a topic of importance to SNAP employment and training, not decided yet, but probably towards the end of September. Thank you all, and I'm going to close the meeting now.